Hello and welcome to this beard clipper video. Now this was a particularly enjoyable build for me and I really hope that you're going to enjoy the video. This is one of the builds for the TCU challenge. The theme was the deep and I decided to go all in and spend lots of money on plastic from Games Workshop and make a massive Goblin Town table. And I did it and you're going to see how. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I do reply to all of them, so don't be shy. I really hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you again at the end. After lots of umming and ahhing and 19 days of thinking and coming up with several ideas. I actually had this idea a week ago and rejected it because, anyway, I'm jumping ahead of myself. The theme is the deep and the idea is down, down, down in Goblin Town, which is something Rosie loves.
Down, down, down in Goblin Town.
And we love that song by the, it's brilliant, Goblin King singing. And I had the idea to do a Goblin Town table. But when I went to my, this is why I rejected the idea, when I went to my existing, which is actually one of the first things I ever bought, I bought this many years ago when before I even played any of the games. It's one of the first things I bought. I realised, and I'd forgotten, that this is all pre-painted. It came painted. Not badly actually when you look at it, but it came painted, and then I was like, oh no, I can't do that because it's all pre-painted. But yesterday I decided, and I went on and I bought some more packs. So I've got some more packs of the Goblin Town scenery. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a Goblin Town themed table. And I'm also, as part of this, and this is something which I bought on made to order, I'd always wanted one, and when it came up on made to order I got it. It was a Goblin King throwing a goblin, which had been in its box for quite some time. So while I'm waiting and hoping that my other scenery and terrain arrives, I'm going to assemble this awesome model, and that's going to be the centerpiece for the photographs and the shots. So I do have the Goblin King isn't wonderfully painted, unfortunately, but I do have all of the miniatures that came with the this set. So there might be a chance that I might strip and repaint them. You can see I've got their names written underneath because back in the day, and still actually, I struggle with the names of some of these things. Not so much the dwarves anymore, but yes, I might actually end up stripping and repainting the Fellowship, not the Fellowship, the Dwarlands Company. Sorry, it's early Sunday on time, so I might end up doing that, stripping and painting. But the main part is going to be assembling, and you can see that these are still flat packs. There's still a bit of an assembly to be done, so it's not totally wasted. It's just the painting isn't going to be my style, but that doesn't matter. So I might go ahead and assemble these and put them onto bases and have it so that I can have a full 4x4 full of Goblin Town. And to that end, I've got 3 or 4 more packs of the Goblin Town scenery coming, and another one of these. Because yeah, you can never have too many goblins, and it was cheap, so I got it. So yeah, I will plan this out. We'll bring you along probably more so when the new terrain comes, when I'll start on the actual terrain. So the first thing I think I'm going to do is trap Mr. Goblin King into a soapy bath and then get him assembled, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So what I'm going to do now that I've finished putting together the Goblin King throwing goblin, sorry, I forgot my words then, and that went together pretty well. There's a fair bit of filling needed, as you can see here, and around the goblin or what have you, but it went together okay. I'm going to start working on the base. So I've got these old offcuts of coffee stirrers, and I'm going to super glue them to the base like so. There'll be a little bit of an overhang, but it won't be the worst thing in the world. And then he's going to be standing on top of that. So to do that, I'm going to need to trim them down some. and you can trim them down afterwards or before. I'm going to trim them down before, I think. So I'm just going to get myself a pencil because I've started this segment and I didn't have my pencil to hand. I was a bit clumsy. There we are, relatively close. So yeah, so I'm going to come along here with a pencil and I'm just going to mark roughly where I want to cut, like that. It's a little mark, and then what I can do is I can come along, snip it with scissors. Strong scissors are your friend here. Put a bead of super glue on it, because super glue is your friend here, and then stick that down to the base, like so. Well, I might actually even do a shorter one next to it. And funny enough, my offcut might be fine. Yes, I think it will be. So I'm going to stick a little bit more of that. Bit of super glue, and then stick it down. So what I'll do is I will basically build that up across the whole base, and then let that dry. And then if you want to have no overhang, what you can do is you can come along with a, I'll probably come along with a Dremel or something and cut them off if I decide to do that. But I might very well just leave it. So yeah, won't take long, but I'll bring you back when I get to the next step, which will probably be scoring it up to make it all manky. And then of course I'm going to have to do the filling on the big dude himself. A little bit of a look through this set of Goblin Town terrain that I have. It turns out that I'm missing one upright, which isn't the end of the world. I can certainly do something about that. I've also got something here, I'm not sure what that is. So yeah, I'm missing one upright, but I've got 4 ramps and 2 platforms. And I just thought I'd have a little bit of a play around. And what I've found is, I know again this shows how little I've looked at this, is that actually the back of the Goblin King's throne is hollow, which is a bit rubbish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some blue foam, going to cut around this blue foam, stick it to the back, carve it and paint it to look like the rock there, so that it'll actually be whole. Because yeah, I mean it's all right if the throne is going to be at the back of the terrain, but that's not necessarily what I'm going to do, because what I'd like to have, and I'll do this probably in a very soon future clip, because I'm still working out in my head. What I'm probably likely to try to do is enable you to recreate some of the scene, the awesome scene where he's singing and then where he has the Thorin's company in front of him. So it'll probably involve maybe using the stock terrain. Maybe I think I might actually end up making some of this myself, a big platform, and it'll have the throne on it, and probably the throne will be glued down on it because that's where it will go. So yeah, so you're going to be able to go behind it and what have you and see it. So I'll do a drawing. I'll sketch out what I feel my ideas are when I finish designing. So yeah, so to stop rambling, I'm going to glue that in place, cut around it, carve it in, maybe use some modelling compound, and then paint on it nicely to make it into this nice grey. I'll probably make use of some more straps as well to follow that round. I'll show you how I do that. Just use some masking tape for that, and make it into a whole non-hollow throne. So yeah, first thing I think to do is to literally glue that in place, and I can do that using my grabby glue, and I'll clamp it and then I'll leave it to dry. So yeah, let's get that done, shall we? Let's get that done in this clip. Oh, I have to go and get my glue. So I didn't have it to hand. So I'm going to glue it in place first, and then once it's dry, once it's set, then I will do the carving, because that's going to make it a little bit easier, I think, than trying to cut it to size and not getting that right first time and then being annoyed. This is just an offcut of blue foam that I had lying around. So that will look good when it's carved and painted and what have you. So I'll let that set. And what I'm now going to do actually is sit down with a bit of paper and pen and just try to work out, because now I've put this together, I know roughly what I've got coming in the post. Basically 4 or 5 times that amount. And I can start to work out roughly what I want to do, because I do want it to be playable. I don't want it to have too many gaps, but I do want to recreate some of that scene from the film where you've got them like swinging. So I might have these are ramps, which is cool, but I might make some platforms and some corridors sort of thing, and then have gaps and have it so that you, like in the game, you can have like some little bit of rules where you have to jump the gap or whatever, just to make it a little bit more like in that awesome scene they have. And I might even do a swinging thing, but we shall see how much time and effort I have, because I'm very busy with everything. Doing that might be beyond me for this, but yeah, let's get to it. All right, my coffee stirrers have stuck on nicely. So what I'm going to do now is get some of this wood stain and stain the wood. Because if you want to stain wood, it's always best to use wood stain. Unfortunately, I've let this get a bit dry. It's very old. This is a problem with buying wood stain. If you're not going to use it a lot, you do end up wasting it because it goes off quite quick. And I think this tin, which to be fair is the first one I bought, and I have had it for a long time, I think this tin is finally on its way out. So yeah, we're just going to stain the wood, and then we can stick the old man, who I have primed, to this, and then we'll be able to paint it, because yeah, it's easier to have it stuck to something than not. So anyway, a bit messy, because as I say, it's got a little bit thick, what would not be any used ever, but it's still usable. I have to leave it a little bit to go off probably. It's not going to dry very quickly, this, I don't think. And then we'll glue the king onto it, and then we'll start painting, as I just said. Sorry, repeating myself because I'm muttering. Right, I'll stop muttering now. There we are. That looks good, doesn't it? Well, that glued on really well. So what I'm going to do now is take my knife and just carve around the edge of it carefully, like this. And then when I've carved around the edge of it, I will then carve some rocky kind of texture, and then it can go and be painted. And that will look a lot better than the stock one. I don't know why they've done it open backed. It's very odd. There we are. So now what we'll do, if you look at how it's been done here, I'll just try to mirror the same kind of texture. Just basically take off all of the sharp straight edges, and make it look a bit like a rock. And then a bit of black paint, a bit of grey paint, and that'll be done. Oh yeah, so that'll look really well. So I'll paint that black and then grey, and then that'll at least not look quite so odd from the side or from the back. Alright, so that undercoat's gone on nicely. So what I'm now going to do is come along and paint grey over. And not worrying too much about missing some of the gaps. It's not a dry brush by any means, but if there's a little bit of black showing, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I'm just going to cover this over, and then we have a much nicer throne for the Goblin King than the stock one, because it's actually got a back to it. There we are. Won't take long to do this. So yeah, when that's I'll get that done and show what it looks like at the end of the project, probably when we'll put it all together. Still waiting for the rest of this to arrive. When it does, then I will have to really crack on, because I'm probably going to run out of time on this, unfortunately. But I'm going to do the best I can and get it as far as I can to do a full table of it. So yeah, but we'll see when it arrives and how much time I have to work on it. But at least this is done, and I'm having fun downstairs at the painting bench, actually painting up Goblin and throwing Goblin, which will also hopefully be done before the end of this challenge. So we've about 3 weeks to go until I need to finish this. What I ordered arrived. So we have a load more of the platforms, which is really cool, including some that have already been made up 2 double height and whatever, which is going to make it really fun. And then I haven't actually opened this yet, so I'm going to have a look inside and see what's in here. We have loads more on sprues, including a load more goblins. We have dice. I forgot that in my box I actually did the separators myself, one of the earliest things I did. So yeah, ooh, that doesn't want to open. There we've got another Goblin King. Got some dice and some more miniatures. Smells a bit funny. Always funny when you get things from other people's houses. I think they're probably the rest of Thorin's company. No, goblins. And then another of those books. So that's pretty cool. A load of stuff there, which I will add into my terrain. And then here we have 3 boxes of the Goblin Town set. So loads and loads and loads. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up, wash and assemble all of the terrain. We'll put it onto a 4x4 table, work out where I want things to go. In terms of surrounds, I'm going to do a bunch of rocks, and that's basically going to be it. So these will be going from rocks. So basically the idea will be, this will be on a base with a rock, or maybe a gap, or what have you. This one has actually been built already on a slope, so I could potentially have like a rock face coming down here. And then it will be able to be placed around the table as a playable Goblin Town set. So let's see if I can get it done. I've got 21 days from the date of recording this before the deadline of this project, and I haven't started at all really. I have started painting up my Goblin King, but apart from that I've not started. So yeah, if I get time I'll do it, if I don't then I'll shrug. That was an epic session of clipping, cleaning up and then washing all these sprues of Goblin Town scenery. I've done them all now, so that is 1 sprue from the normal box and 3 of the additional Goblin Town scenery sprues. So hopefully there's enough there. Of course I do already have, if I come over here quickly, I do have this, which is also already assembled, which is another box of the Goblin Town scenery, the extra box. And then over here I have the stuff that came in the first ever box that I bought. So I've got quite a lot to go on, but I'm going to leave that to dry, and then I'm going to start working out how things are going to sit. And probably what I'm going to do, the way I'm going to work this, is I'm probably going to get it all onto bases, get it all onto get the bases made up, get it all glued together, and then paint it once I've got the bases and know roughly where everything's going to go, because I haven't worked out yet how I'm going to glue it together. And of course, if we go back to the first batch, well, you can see that I've not bothered to keep anything organised really. I'm just going to make it up randomly. I've already got one set that's basically made up in the way that the instructions say, so these are all going to get put together, maybe even cut to pieces and snipped and what have you, and really made into something totally custom. So I need to get the base done first, get all of the rocks and what have you, and get the layout done before I can really start to paint and glue them together. So that's going to be the next thing. So I'll leave that to dry overnight, and then we'll put this onto a 4x4 table and work out roughly how it's all going to lay out. Big job this. I hope I get it done in time. Well, there's a box full of lots and lots of plastic. All of the sprues for Goblin Town that I've got. So what I'm going to do now is use this 4x4 table to plan out the layout. Now I know a lot of people would probably do a drawing, but I'm just not smart enough with my art for that. So what we're going to do is pull out all of the bits and then arrange it and work out roughly where things are going to go. Find out I've bought way too much. Find out some of it is broken. Oops, that needs to be glued back together. That won't be too hard though. And then once I've got a plan of where things are going to go, I will start to work out what things are going on what bases, what rocks are going to go, how high we're going to go. My idea for the table is to have the Goblin King kind of like one edge on the corner, so over here, and then platforms coming towards him, and then platforms going away for a chase sequence. But I want it to be quite well joined together. I don't want it to be too much of just a single path of the only way to get around it. So I want things to kind of join together. So that's the idea anyway of what I've got. So if you think about that first scene when they're in Goblin Town, when the Goblin King's singing, that's kind of the idea I've got. And also a little bit of a way for them to escape and for goblins to converge. Because who knows, might even manage to get a game on this. Anyway, let's get all the sprues out and see what we've got. Well, I think you can agree that I've got a lot of it. Doesn't quite cover the entire table without any gaps, but it gets pretty close. But that means I'm going to be able to have some good gaps, some good voids, and maybe have a couple of like stepped areas. But it is going to take a little bit of planning. I hopefully don't run out of time. Don't have very much time left on this project actually, because we're going to need to make sure that we're going to need to keep things at a regular height, so things can, so that the tiles can, or they're not going to be tiles, so that the scatter pieces can butt together. So if we've got an end here and an end here, they're not off on a height basis, they actually can meet. So we have to make sure that we're good with that. However, I am pretty happy with the amount we've got. I think I'm going to be able to achieve my vision, hopefully. It is a bit scary when you look at that and wonder whether you've got enough. But yeah, it is what it is. I'll now, off camera, because this is going to take me a day or two, put together, try to work out roughly an arrangement, get some blocks of XPS and kind of mock it out. And I'll bring you along maybe for part of that, but mostly I'll do it off camera, and we'll see what we end up with after I've finished having a play. Well, I've moved through into the games room because it was a little bit awkward in the lounge, and I've also realised, I've gone through and stared at this several times, I've realised I was overcomplicating things. I don't need things to be absolutely lined up, I just need them to be roughly close enough. And trying to think about how to do it so they absolutely line up, particularly because there's so many different heights and levels of this stuff, it just wasn't really working for me. So what I'm going to do, and again I'm going to do most of this off camera initially, and I'll bring you along when I've made a little bit of progress again. I'm going to make a start with the bits that are already assembled, which is this section here, and then I've stacked up all the other sections there, and I'm just going to roughly work out the footprint of each section I'm going to do, and then I'm going to have to go and do lots of cutting and sanding, which is not my favourite thing, to get the bases done. So I'm going to put these on wooden bases, I think. I might change my mind on that, but initially I'm going to put them on wooden bases, and then I can start to carve the foam and fit it all into place relatively quickly, hopefully, and then I can get to painting, because then it'll be done. So yeah, I'm just going to be less accurate, or worry less about accuracy. I try to be as accurate as possible, but not freeze myself like I was there, trying to be as accurate as I can, and we'll see what we end up with. Very excited about this, but time is running out. Well, I've made a start, and a start is what you need to make, and then you can carry on. This is how it's going to work. So what I've done is I've used the hot wire cutter, the Proxon, a little bit to trim off some sections from these big thick chunks of expanded polystyrene, and then I've hacked them down just with the edge of my Ulfa blade there to make them look like rocks. What you can see here is I've created a little bit of a shelf for this one here, which was pre-assembled and comes with a short and a long leg, which is pretty cool. I'm quite happy with that. Might do the same thing again elsewhere. And then this is just resting at the moment. It will fall down if I move it. And then I'm going to put a T-junction, make that into a T-junction there. So what will happen is the base will basically be quite close to the edge of this rock and quite close to the edge of the of these uprights, and then I'll be able to stick everything down and it'll be secure. And then here I've started another little idea, which is just a flat top, which has a bit of a which will have this bit of walkway on it, and then that would be able to potentially go there, and that will be jumpable, so it'll be a jump test, but it still will be passable, and you can see how it's starting to be able to kind of all link up, so you could even put that there, and that will be jumpable, and you're starting to make a really nice table. So that's the plan. So I'm going to carry on with that. When I've got to stop now, when I come to do the next one, I'll bring you along to show you how I go about carving it and cutting it. I just wanted to do that off camera so I could come up with my ideas. I'm very happy with how that's looking, but I'll turn the camera on when I do the next one, but I've got to stop now, unfortunately, because yeah, I'm running out of time today. So I've just been stood staring at this for a little bit, and I've worked out my next shape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have it so that this platform here, this large platform, is actually between two sections of rock. So we're going to have something, so basically it's going to be kind of a bit like this. So we're going to have the rock coming up and it's sitting on it, and then what I'm probably going to do is extend one side a little bit and have another section of platform coming at an angle about 45 degrees. So what this is going to need me to do is cut out two sections, two lumps of rock, and then stick this bit in the middle and then get another walkway going on the other side, and that'll be quite a nice little bit of fun, I think. So you'll have a little bit of cover in between the two walkways, and you'll be able to go underneath the underneath this section here, because this will obviously have its platform legs on, like so. So yeah, I think it look quite nice and be quite an interesting little feature. So first thing I'm going to do is work out roughly where to cut, and then take this over to the Proxon and do the basic cut to make it easier. So one of the issues I'm having with this, is making it so that things can really easily tessellate. So I need to have a gap. I need to have the gap between the two wide enough so that a piece like this with long legs can come along, and it's going to be not too bad of a jump test. It's not going to be so high, so I could also possibly make a little ladder, but I do want to make sure that that width stays the same, stays wide enough. So using this as a template, I can make sure that I'll be able to carve that angle up, get the legs in, so that should be okay. So I will just, and I'm going to use this side is going to be for my, it's going to have the other rock on it, the other walkway on it. There we are. So something like that. Okay, so I'll go and cut that out on the Proxon, and then what I'll do is once that's done, I will then work out another one. I might be able to do it entirely on this section, which would be nice. So there we are, and I can carve that down more. So I'll cut both of those sections out of the Proxon now, and then I'll bring you back when I've got my knife out and I'm actually starting to carve and texture the stone effect. Well, there we have it. So we have the two blocks and we have the gap in the middle, which is pretty cool. I'm umming and ahhing at the moment now about whether you're actually ever going to be able to get a miniature underneath there, or whether I need to make it so that this is removable so that you can, which kind of defeats some of the object of what I'm doing. So I might not make it so you can go underneath. I might just have it so it's a bit of interest, and that will mean that I'll be able to drop this a bit lower down, so I can move that a bit wider, potentially use this shelf to stand on. Obviously once I've trimmed down this a bit, I'll be able to get to the shelf a bit easier, and that might make it a bit that might make it a little bit more look better, rather than it sitting up so high. And what I think I'm going to do is put another bit of rock on top of this, like I say, and then I will be looking to put a platform off the edge, and this is going to be quite a large central piece, obviously. The other thing to say is, as I'm working on this, I'm realising I'm probably going to end up with at least 2 tables if I use all of the terrain, because yeah, there's a huge amount. Anyway, so I make use of an auger blade like this, and it's just a case of kind of hacking away. So I'll show you how I work on this smaller piece, and then I'll work on this piece off camera, because it's a little bit more awkward working on this when you're trying to stay in shot. But basically what you're trying to do is you're going to carve the corners off like this. And the good thing with wanting to be a rock is that you actually don't want it to be too even. And I have my bin behind me, so I put them straight in the bin. These ones I can't save, unfortunately. Well, I probably could, but I'd end up with so many that I would not have any space for anything else. And then on the sides, you're using it literally just to pull pinches of the material off like this. And once we've done our technique and put all of our material on it and painted it and what have you, this will look like a very effective rough rock edge. And before I get people complaining at me that I'm going to cut myself because I'm cutting towards, I'm not really cutting, I'm pinching. And if you don't want to use a knife, you can use like tweezers or whatever to rip chunks out. Unfortunately, there's no way of getting away from doing this towards you, just because of what the action you're trying to do. So you get a nice effective rock edge, and then you're going to carve the top off. And again, because we're working on a rock, it doesn't have to be neat. And there we are. So then you can dig into this a little bit more, shorten the blade a bit for this bit, take some divots out if you wish. Then be careful of doing them too narrow, because otherwise it'll be a bit hard to put the paint in. And then you have quite an effective rock face. So I will work on this side and on the other larger one off camera, because it's going to be a little bit safer and easier for me. And I'll bring you back for the next step when I get there. So there we are, that's worked out really nicely. I hacked away at it in the same way as I explained. I've got a little bit more to do on this front edge, as you can see, but I've run out of time now. Rosie's awake, so I need to go and spend some time with her. So yeah, but I hacked away at that. I've made this so this sits between the two, which is quite a nice little conceit there. And then what I've decided to do, I changed my mind, rather than having something going at an angle, I've decided to give another access up and across rocks. So I've hacked a ledge out here. I might hack that back a bit further as well, put this in a little bit more, smooth that down. But for now, as I say, I've run out of time. What I am going to need to do, because it's very, very annoying, is I'm going to need to stick the legs onto the end of these, because they keep falling off and I keep thinking I'm losing them. But so I'm just going to glue those on. But you can see we've got a ledge there, and then I've hacked out, like I've put a couple of little footings there, and that should look well. Now, once I've finished hacking away at this and cutting this up, I think I'm actually going to start making bases for all these and maybe try to stage them through, so not do them all at once. Get these going while I continue cutting out more bases for more walkways. So I'll bring you along for that, show you how I'm going to do that. They're going to be basically a plywood base painted black, and then I'll stick these on in the right place, and then I'll be able to start painting and what have you. So that'll be something that I'll try and get some time to do later today, hopefully, because I really need to crack on with this. But the first thing is I'm going to stick these legs on just with some super glue, and I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. I've decided that I want to have a little bit more rock up here. I think I mentioned about having like line of sight blockers, and that'd be a nice line of sight blocker. So I've just carved that out of some more spare foam. What I'm going to do is make use of my grabby glue just to stick that in place. And I'm still working on the rest of this, as in getting it carved out. But there's that. I've carved a little bit more out of this step here so that the this platform is sitting in nicely. And as I said in the previous one, what I'm going to do now, once that's dried and I've finished carving the edge, I'm going to start painting and decorating these. And then I'm going to work on the next tiles alongside. So yeah, and I do need to get these onto a base. So I'm just going to let that set. It won't take very long. And then I'm going to go down, measure the base that I need for this, cut it out using my jigsaw, stick these on, paint them all black, and then come back, and I'm probably going to use grout and sand mixture to texture and harden them up before I then glue the actual
these actual plastic pieces on. So yeah, we're making some good progress on these first 3 sections. I've got about 15 more to go. So I've just been down and I've cut my plywood, and you can see I've done it nice and close. I'm not too worried about organic shapes as such, 'cause I'm going to paint them black. The gaps between on this board, the gaps between are not floor, you can't walk on them, so it doesn't matter. Rosie shouts me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to sand down the little bits of splinters and then glue these on with that. But I better go and see Rosie, and I'll do that in the next clip. Right, so I have sanded down the base of these just with some hand sandpaper. And what I'm going to do now is stick things in place. So the easiest one is obviously going to be this, which just needs to be stuck down flat onto that. And I will once again make use of my grabby glue to do this. So just run a bead around there, like that. And then that can sit down on there, and that'll be done. The next easiest one, let's move that out of the way. That's the hard one. The next easiest one is this. So what we have here, I just need to make sure that my pieces will balance correctly. But that goes right hard up against the other. The feet on this go right up against the base of the rock face. So that will be a good place for it to sit. So we will again put a bead of glue and stick that in place. Oops. There we are. So just make sure again before I press that down, that's going to be fine. There we are. And the most difficult one is going to be the other one, the final one. So this, there are quite a few dependent parts. So the first thing will be to stick this in place. I hear a Rosie heading up. I'm doing this in grabbed moments during my Saturday, and I'm about to go and play with her on the balcony on her trampoline. And I just thought I'd quickly come get this done so it can start to set. Anyway, there we are. So we've got that, and so what we're going to do is using this to position both. That goes there. It needs to move in quite a lot. And then that sits there. And you can see, there we are. That's where we want that to sit. So I will now press those down nice and hard and then leave this to set for a little while. Let's make sure that didn't move too much. It didn't. Perfect. There we are. So that's those three ready to have the terrain put on, scenery put on, and I will probably prime up these separately so that I can paint them all together, but there can be a very, very basic paint job on this wood. So yeah, we're starting to make some progress here. I'm going to do quite a few very simple bases for these. These are probably some of the more advanced, more dramatic, and I've got some idea for some quite tall ones, which I'm considering how to do them. So I will probably work on a few more of these type off camera and show you what they look like once they're done. You can see the kind of techniques I'm using. There's no point in going over and over it. But when I come to my big ones, my tall ones, I'll definitely be filming that. I've done the next three, and I've actually got two more downstairs, but I've run out of good plywood, or at least it is accessible good plywood, so I'm going to have a look and see what I can do. But anyway, so I've done one here which is like a long thin with a bridge, which is quite cool. I've got one here which is just a flat piece with a lump of rock next to it, which is also cool. And then this is where the Goblin King will be. So I've doubled the size of the Goblin King's platform compared to what it does in the pack, or at least I think I have. And then what I've done is I've done this has got 2 uprights, and I'm not putting the uprights on or the legs on this corner, and I'm going to make use of some polystyrene, which will be stuck in here, and that will support the that middle bit of the platform. So they're not glued down yet, and there's another little odd bit that's going to go there, so I'll glue those down now, and then we'll let them set, and then we'll get to painting these first 6 bases, probably with, as I've said, with some Grout mix, I think, because that will just act also to kind of harden it a bit as well, make it a bit more hard wearing. So yeah, going well so far. I'm a bit frustrated about my plywood supplies. It's basically a lot of the stuff I've got downstairs is just warped beyond belief, which obviously is a big problem. Like literally wavy, not even close to flat, not close to true. So yeah, that's a bit annoying. Let's just make sure I've got these in the right place. Yes, I have. There we are. So that's cool. So yeah, so I'll let them set, and then I'll bring you along for the next step, which will be painting them when I get to it. I might put a few bits of rock in under here, actually, but just the same sort of thing, just some flat bits of rock, and then this can go over the top, just to add a bit of interest more than I think. It won't be very obvious, but yeah, might do that. Having fun with this now, I'm really pleased to be cracking on with it. So I managed to find some more of my plywood that was flat, so I've been able to make the bases for the next 2. As you can see, they're quite interesting, and what I'll be doing is in the scenarios that we play this, the goblins can come from anywhere, and this means that they'll be able to come on, and there'll be a ladder here, and they'll be able to appear and jump out, and you'll be able to put like another flat here, and what have you. So it can be quite interesting as part of the layout. And then this one is similar, a little bit of cover, and then you'll be able to like run on and off from lots of different areas, and build up lots of put more platforms coming off of it. So those 2 are the new ones. This one I've glued the 2 together now before I start doing the texture on the side. As you can see, it hasn't got the rock texture on the side there, so that's going to have to wait a little bit, and that's not glued on. However, I have stuck this on, and all my other ones, the XPS is stuck on nicely. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to mix up some Grout. I'm going to mix it up without putting sand in it this time, because I don't want to have a thick mix. I want it to just be able to be painted on. So Grout, bit of water and PVA, and then I'm going to paint that over the base and the rock. So I'll get that mixed up and then bring you along to show you what it looks like. Right, here we are. So I just put about equal ratio of the Grout to PVA, and then a little splash of water, and we have a nice black fillery type material, which will add a little bit of structure, but hopefully will also allow us to keep all the texture that I've created. So what I'm going to do is spend quite a bit of time now painting this over all of the pieces. This is probably where most of the time is going to go on this build, particularly as I find bits that peel off like that. So yeah, I'm not going to film it all, it's just going to be like this. Looking to fill in all the gaps, and like I say, it does act as a filler. So if you've got a gap at the bottom like that, slap it in and it will fill it. But then on the rest of it you can paint it relatively thin, and it will just add a little bit of strength, but hopefully not fill in too many of the gaps. So yeah, old brush as well, brush that probably after this will end up being thrown away. Right, I will get this done and come back to you after I've finished doing this, when I get to the next step. Right, so I've managed to get my Grout mix all over and that's worked really well, but as you can see, it doesn't get the greatest of coverage. Now I could keep on with this with grout. What I've decided to do is mix up some of my hobby glue, as I call it, which is house paint with PVA, water and a little bit of washing up liquid or dish soap, very similar to how I do my terrain glue. And the reason I've done this is it's going to just be quicker and it will give a nice even colouring. So what I'm going to do now is just come over and do a quick seal of all of them using this mix. So that won't take very long, but I will need to be turning it over, getting it at interesting angles to make sure that I hit everything and don't leave any gaps. Now I have noticed that I left the texture on the side of this one, which is a bit annoying. So part of me is wondering whether I might hack that off and then repaint it, but we shall see. So now I'll sit here, I've got lots of these to do. So I'll quickly paint all of these with the black, and then it'll be come in to do the stone colours. And then I better start painting up my actual platforms. I'm thinking that I've probably done enough complex major bases, though there is one I really want to do with like a big spire, so I might do that one, but I think quite a lot of the next few I'm going to do of these bases is going to be quite simple ones where it's just a platform on a base. I want them on the base because it will make it a little bit less easy to damage and it will just unify the whole board. So you can play this on a simple black mat or black cloth, and put these on and it will look really nice on the tabletop. Anyway, I'm going to continue with this, continue painting all these, and I'll bring you back when I get to the next step. Well, this evening I'm tired, I was up too early this morning, so what I'm doing is I'm starting the massive process of painting all these platforms. So I've primed these ones and now I'm going to get on with these ones. I've also just finished painting this last one with black, though I think I've just missed a bit. I missed a bit, yes I did, so I'm going to need to get a little bit of black in there. So they'll be ready for dry brushing as well, but the big task now is painting all of the platforms. So yeah, I'm just going to sit and watch some videos. I'm watching some Blood and Plunder live videos, which is cool, and priming these and chilling out, but making lots of progress at the same time. Well, I spent about 2.5 hours this evening just priming the other platforms. And so what I've decided to do is make use of all of these ones that are already painted, because it's just going to save a bit of time. So I've done that thing again where I convert one of these slopey ones into a platform, which I think is quite a nice idea. Quite like how they looked on other ones. So I've done that again. I'm going to have this platform with no legs on it. Probably going to sit it between 3 rocks. That's my plan there anyway. And I'm going to have this one as a wide ramp, and I'm going to save these 2 legs to one side. So what I'm going to do is pick out, so I say that one's going to be between 4 rocks. I was considering doing something like this, but I've already got a bit of a long platform, so I think this one actually might turn into a T junction. Having said that, what I might do is have them as 4 separate. So I'm just going to play around with that a little bit. If I do them as 4 separate, I'm going to make it so that they can relatively easily butt up. So I'll have straight edges like I've been doing at the end of each one, and then just a little bit of around. But that's kind of fitting in with the strategy I want to do, which is making these quite a few of these now a little bit simpler. So yes, I'm going to carve out some stone from some XPS. Get some more bases cut, but that'll have to wait till tomorrow because it's now 10:30 at night, and I'm nearly done in. I've had a long day. I was up at 4 this morning. So yeah, so I'm gonna play around with some XPS and then call it for tonight after that, and then tomorrow I'll cut the bases, get them ready and start. These will be the first ones that will finish, because once I've got the bases done and I've dry brushed the stone, the rock and what have you, then I can just stick the tops on. We can see how well it looks. So yeah, that was a long time, a lot of priming, and I've not even done half of what I want to do. So I really don't know how much I'm going to get done for the deadline, but I am going to have something to show for it, it seems, which is a bonus. Well, I've just got back upstairs having done some more cutting of the baseboards. So you can see I've taken these platforms and put them onto slightly smaller bases. Really pleased with how this one's worked out. I notched in so that the platform would sit on 3 rocks. I think that looks really cool. And as you can see, these ones are done really close, so it'd be perfectly legitimate to say that you can make that jump without any test if you wanted to, or you could say that there had to be a test if you wanted to. And once again, these will butt up really nicely and cleanly to each other. So that was what I was aiming for with those, and also with this one, just with an interesting rock that's going to cause a bit of a line of sight blocker. And then this one as well, which is not supposed to be a ramp, but I've turned it into a ramp because I don't care. So yeah, that's working out really nicely, and it's given me more ideas for the rest of the platforms, which I'm going to have to do over the next couple of days. So I thought I'd quickly show you that. So what I've got to do now is sand off these rough edges and then paint the boards. I might turn that one upside down actually, because that's a bit of a smoother side. So yeah, paint these up with my mix, or my Grout mix, and then cut and then finish off with a little bit of black paint. And then these I'm going to have to glue the bases down and then paint them as well. So yeah, this is a good idea, I think, making use of these pre-painted ones, just to give me a little bit of a sense of achievement. A bit depressing that was last night, doing all that painting and thinking, goodness me, I've got to paint these over and over again to get them brown. But I have got some thoughts about that, and I am wishing that I could use my airbrush, because this would be so much easier if I was able to airbrush. This is going pretty well. I've made a few more. I've just decided to spray primer, which I don't normally do, but it was just taking me absolutely ages to hand paint all these, and I've got so much to do that I thought I would. And I also might end up putting the base coat of brown wood. I bought several oranges and browns spray colours today, so I might end up spraying those as well. But I'm going to give it a test, and if it works then I'll do it, and if it doesn't then I won't. But what I need to do next, the next stage of this, and I am going to do a very traditional effect. So I'm going to go for a grey, a dark grey and then a light grey dry brush over all the pieces. So of course I'm not going to film it all because there's loads, but this one is the first shape that I did, so I thought I'd do this one as the first dry brush as well. So just as per usual, take a bit of the paint off on a cloth or a kitchen towel, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come along and just brush over the top. Try not to get it onto the black base if we can help it, but if it gets too bad then I can always come along with some more black paint and cover that up. It's not going to be just black and grey. I will do other colours because there's going to be green, and there might even be some mould, so I might even put some flocking on just to really make it interesting. But it is a really quick process, and what it does is it adds the interest to the piece, put some variety on, and really brings it to life. So I'm going to do that for all of them, and once I've done that for all of them, then what I'll do is I'll come along with a lighter grey, and then with other colours I'll probably do all of the grey now and then bring it back when I come to do the lighter grey, do all the grey together. So yeah, I'll get that done. But if we quickly just rotate the camera a little bit, there we are, you can see these are my next rocks. So we're going to have one which is going to have a bridge with a gap in the middle. This one is going to be a slope down, and this one has one of the larger platforms as a slope down as well. So I'm just looking at getting some elevation changes in this batch. But anyway, I'll crack on with the dry brushing and bring you back when I get to the next step. We're working on the next batch, and this is all now glued down. Not yet dry, but glued down. That's the way I'm going to have it. So we've got a little stone here, and then these will be glued obviously. You'll be able to jump onto the platform, go up the platform onto the rock, which is pretty cool, and there'll be a little bit of kind of line of sight blockers from this interesting shape. What I'm going to be doing is just gluing down some of these bits of offcut that I've got over here. I'll probably use PVA for this because it'll be easier, just to add a little bit more interest in this area. So yeah, it's going well. Pretty pleased with how it's looking, and yeah, quite happy with the the progress so far. I am running out of, as I thought I would, out of MDF. Oh, sorry, not MDF. Out of what's it called? The wood, whatever the wood's called. Sorry, brain fart. Yeah, so I'm running out of that. So that's going to probably be the limit on my creativity for this, because when I'm out of wood, I won't be able to make any more. But hopefully I'll be able to make another. I'm probably not going to be able to get to make all of it, just because, as I say, a bit short on wood. But hopefully I'll be able to make quite a lot, and maybe another batch or two after this. I'm also going to start running into serious time issues. Anyway, there we are. Just make sure I'm not actually getting in the way of my platform. I'm not. So yeah, so I'll let that dry and then do the grout mix and then paint and then dry brush and catch up to where the rest of them are. Right, I've dry brushed every rock formation which is ready for dry brushing. So now we're going to move on to the light grey, and this does actually want to be a dry brush. So you are going to be looking at taking as much of that off so that it doesn't really leave any wet streaks, and then it's going to be a much lighter brush over the whole thing than with the darker grey. And what you'll find is it sometimes takes a little while for it actually to show its effect. So don't get worried if you look at it and go, well, that's not done much. Because if you leave it 20 minutes and come back, it will suddenly be like glistening, and all of the little light highlights will be really obvious. So I'm going to do this over the whole of these. I've decided I'm not worrying so much if I'm brushing onto the dark wood at the bottom, because I'll just come around with another black paint. So yeah, so I'm going to do everything now with the light grey, and then when that's done, I'll bring it back and we'll do the fun colours. So I'm really keen on putting some flock on, some mouldy, kind of bright greeny drips, that sort of thing. I think it's going to be really nice to make it look really scummy and scuzzy. But the biggest thing I've got to do now is paint all of those platforms. So I'll definitely bring you along when I get to that, which will be soon as well. Alright, I think this is going to work. So you can see my test piece here. What I've done is I've taken 3 spray cans. I don't often paint with spray cans, but this is such a big project that painting with a hairy stick is just too much. This one here is copper brown. Then I've got chocolate brown, and finally over here terracotta. And so what I've done, and I'll do this on camera a little bit, what I've done is I've just sprayed it from quite a long way away just to kind of get a little bit of an effect on it. So let's start off with the copper brown. So I'll just give that a shake. And then what we'll do is I'm from quite a long way away, short bursts, just looking at getting a bit of a covering like that, not too much. And then we'll have a look at the terracotta. Maybe come around to the side, not that you can see where I'm stood, but maybe you can see where the spray is coming from. I don't mind the grey staying because old wood is grey. So yeah, and then the darker has a bigger effect. But that is quite a nice kind of dirty wood effect, which I think is a good start, to be honest. Now, I will obviously need to be highlighting, if we pick this other one up here, which I'm going to paint next. On these, there's lots and lots of details, so I will have to come through with a brush and highlight all the bones and what have you. But that's a far smaller job than having to paint all this. And also, this is going to be much cheaper than using my hobby paints to paint all these. So I'm going to spend the next couple of days, just a little bit at a time, painting these up, spray painting these, and yeah, Very, very pleased. I've actually not quite finished yet doing all my dry brushing to grey, to light grey on every single bit of stone, because I've been making quite a few more rock pieces. But the last ones of those are now drying with the grout on it, and then I'll be covering those last ones with a bit of black paint to fill in the gaps, and then dry brushing. And once that's done, then I'll bring you along for the flocking and any staining of green and what have you that I'm going to put on it. So yeah, we've got a week to go, but yeah, I've made a really good progress this week, and I think I'm going to finish this massive project, which is just amazing. This time last week, I was nowhere. Well, there we are. That's a table of terrain, isn't it? So I've managed to get all of the base colours done. I'm pretty happy, actually. My aerosol technique has worked all right. It's a bit shiny. Might be able to knock that back with a bit of matte varnish once I've painted everything. There's a few ones that aren't done quite so well, as you can see here, which need a little bit of a touch up. But my thoughts on that is I now need to go through and paint all of these details. So all of my bones on every single piece need to be painted. And some of them need to be re-sprayed like that one, which is terrible. But I'll do that as well. And then, yeah, once that's all painted, then glue the platforms in place and I'm done. So yeah, pretty pleased that I've managed to get to this stage by today. This is Sunday, so yeah, I didn't know whether I would or not, and I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. It's a full table. There's not much gap, and you should be able to arrange that in a fun way so that there's like jump tests and climb tests and a lot of there's some high terrain, some lower terrain. You get some ladders involved, and yeah, talking of which, I need to paint the ladders as well, and maybe steal some that I already had to complete this so that it's playable. It'd be nice to get a game on it maybe, but I'm just pleased it looks as good. I've also not actually used every single platform yet, so I may do some more, but this is going to be enough for the challenge. I think I've got a few left over, which I might put just on flat bases like I've done here, where there's no extra, it's just a bit of plywood and then the platform sits on top. So yeah, I might just do some more simple ones just as joiners. But yeah, wow, how about that? Well, the first stage of detail painting is done, just finished now on my lunch break. If it'll focus, yeah, painting all of the skulls and what have you. So what I'm going to do next is paint all the metal details and any other little bits that I think I might want to do, and then I'll glue them in place. And then start putting the flocking and the green mould and what have you on. Actually, what I'm going to have to do before I do that, on some of these, you can see we've got little bits of smear and what have you on the base. So I have to go around a little bit where my dry brushing has failed. There's another bit there, and just touch up those black bases. But yeah, so it didn't take very long. Managed to get that done in 2 sessions. I had a really fun time yesterday evening painting most of them. Just put some music on and cracked on, and then just now I only had just these few in this corner here to finish. And I did that in about 20 minutes on my lunch break. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty happy. Getting close to finished on this now.
Down, down, down in Goblin Town.
Very good, Rosie. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put a little tiny bits of flock to look a little bit like mould or what have you. I know, yeah. On these cliffs. So this is the first one that I did, which I'm using as my exemplar. So I'm going to do the glue, and Rosie's going to do the flock. Wait for me to put the glue on first. Don't get any out just yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a little drop of glue in there, and then if you could just drop a little bit of flock in that spot. That's it. And then we will pick that up and shake it back in. And there we have a tiny bit, let me just zoom in, wait a second, a tiny bit of green on the piece. So what we'll do now is I'll pick another place to put it.
Look!
I know, it's not going there though, so don't worry, we'll shake that off. Right, pop a little bit on there, just a tiny little drop, that's it. And then we'll shake that off. No, don't do that, leave it on the, it's on the paper for a reason, because I can collect it on the paper. Don't drag it onto the floor, because that'll waste it. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to work around all of these. Not just yet, because we've not sealed it. We're
that?
yeah, so you want some there, do you?
Yes.
So we're going to work around this, just put in little bits of touches of green as a highlight, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So yeah, I will, wait a second, I've not put any more glue on yet. So I will show you what this looks like when it's done. We're going to have to do this to every single piece, and it may not be that I get to do all of it with Rosie, because I haven't got very much time.
Can I see?
You can see, I don't get very much time now. But yeah, so we'll get this done. Right, you're going to say bye-bye, Roo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for helping me.
Down in Goblin Town.
Very good. Right, so just finished those two processes, one of which you saw me doing with Rosie. We've got about half of them done, which is really cool. Actually more than half of them. I just had a few more to do this morning, which I did during the day. So we've got little bits of flocking there just to highlight. And then what I've just finished doing now is painting all the elements on the actual platforms. So the metal bits, the bones and the ties. And that's gone really well, pretty happy with it. So now I come to the final part for these, or maybe the final part, I'm not sure, but the next step anyway, which is a blob of super glue on each leg, and then stick them in place, which is quite exciting. So I've got quite a lot of these to do. I won't film all of them, but that's the plan. Stick them in place like so. Yeah, hopefully this will work all right. There's a little bit of weight, and then this one I'll get stuck in, and it will have a little bit of super glue on the end, so it will be be going across the platform. So yeah, I'm going to get that done, and then I'll decide whether I'm going to add any more streaking or any more flock or any more whatever. But yeah, that's the next thing to do. I also still need to finish actually painting the Goblin King, which hopefully I'll be able to get done very soon. And then he can go onto his throne. And this project is very nearly done. Well, I've just brought all of the terrain through onto this shelving unit, which I bought by accident. I ordered a chest of drawers, and they sent me two of these, so I don't know where they're going to go. But anyway, so I've made the best of it, made use of them, and racked them all up here, because just next to the camera right now, I've put my table up, and I've put one of my mats upside down on top of it, so that it's got a black base. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these all and make a table, which is cool, because they're all done. They're stuck, as you can see, and there's a lot. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of terrain there. So anyway, so I'm going to put the camera at the table, do a little bit of a time lapse, setting up a full table with all of this scenery. As I've said, there are actually a couple of platforms I've not made use of, so I may eventually do a few more. I'm not sure, but yeah, let's get this whole thing set out, and then we can see what it looks like completed. Well, there we are. Now I think I've probably got enough for 2 boards. It's very crowded. I could easily have done a lot less here and a lot less in the centre. But yeah, I wanted to get it all on the table, but I do think there's nearly enough for 2 boards. So if I actually finished all of these and put them all onto, paint them all up, I think I could probably get 2 tables, which is pretty cool, and I'm really pleased with how it looks. It's completely playable. You've got some interesting jump tests, so you could play that as a jump test. You've got a lot of manoeuvrability, so you can come along here, 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 so there's lots of variety of how you can move. You've got like a climb up there, and then you get higher up, and that will give you shooting down onto the main onto the throne platform. And then yeah, I think it's just worked out really, really well. I think it looks brilliant, and I would love to play on it, and maybe I will get to play on it. It'd be fun to have a game on this. Thorin's Company versus Goblin Town could be quite a lot of fun. But yeah, there we are, done. I can't believe I've done it in time. I'm going to get some pictures of this now, and count how many pieces I've actually got, and yeah, then I'll wrap it up. So really happy with this. I think it looks great. Very much fun done with it, particularly with the fact that I managed to do a bit of it with Rosie, which is always going to be a positive, isn't it? And yeah, I think it looks like a really playable Goblin Town board. Very playable indeed. Probably better than, well, certainly better than I expected, put it that way. I've finally finished painting up my Goblin King throwing goblin. Pretty happy with how he's turned out. I went with my technique of lots of washes of lots of really odd different colours to get a really varied skin tone, which I'm really pleased with. And yeah, happy to get that done. Sat on my painting bench for about 6 months not being touched, but yeah, it's done. It's another minch off the list, and another win really, because yeah, I just haven't painted properly for ages. I got sick again, so I had another 2 weeks off, so it's nice to get back down to my painting bench again and get that done. Well, what an epic project, what an epic build, what an epic table. I hope you really enjoyed that video. I really enjoyed making it. The plan now is to play a game on that table and get that to the channel as soon as possible. Maybe even release it around the same time as this video, so look out for that. I'm not sure if I'll achieve it, but that is the aim. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do love reading them all and they do really inspire me. Does this inspire you? Are you going to go and do something this crazy? Have you tried to build a Goblin Town table? It'll be awesome to hear from you. And yeah, anyway, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. So I'll wrap up by saying, as I always do, to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.